My guest today is an 8-time NCAA track and cross country national champion, a 4-time Olympic trials qualifier, once in the 5K, and an impressive 3 times in the marathon. To make this all the more impressive, she did so while writing a book called Breakthrough Women's Running, coaching over 1,000 runners to their goals, being married, and a soon-to-be mother of 3. Did you know that the supermom was seemingly born to run? She was born on the same day her father, a decorated runner and coach himself, completed the Boston Marathon. And she has her son off to a running start as well, setting the stroller 1-mile world record with him in a time most of us couldn't run on our own, let alone pushing our kid in the stroller. A time of 5 minutes and 24 seconds. Today we'll learn what makes my guest the coach of choice for runners wanting to fit big goals into a busy life. A woman who once said, "One interesting thing I've noticed in my career is that breakthroughs often come after periods of struggle." Please enjoy my conversation with Neely Spence Gracey. First question for you, Neely, is why did you become a running coach? Like what, you ran so much, had such success there. What led you to think you wanted to coach others to do that?
Totally. So I went to college with an idea that I wanted to become a coach. So I have a degree in communication and a minor in coaching. Um, and to be honest, at that point, I thought I would do college coaching, kind of follow in my dad's footsteps. He's coached at Shippensburg University, which is where I went, um, since 1998. So, that's kind of been his career since he retired from pro running at
Mhm.
that time. But in 2013, about a year after I graduated, I ended up getting an injury and I was pro running and now I'm injured and have nothing to do in my life and I'm so bored. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start an online coaching business and see what happens. And so I honestly just reached out to like a couple Facebook friends and was like, hey, anyone want me to coach them? And it started with like a handful of friends and has just kind of grown from there. So, yeah, 2013 is when it started. And I quickly learned that as much as I loved my own running, I felt so excited about other people's running. Um,
Mhm.
and it was a very rewarding and gratifying experience to be trusted to support these runners towards their goals. And so I've now, you know, 12 years later, had the privilege of coaching over 1,000 athletes. Um, and it's been really special.
Yeah. And you said you initially thought you were going to collegiately coach and you ended up on the online. Do you feel like that was a good choice? Would you have rather gone the college route now looking back?
Looking back, I have absolutely no regrets, especially with the direction collegiate athletics has continued to head. Um, I feel that one, you know, being a parent, uh, it would be really challenging to collegiate coach. And, I grew up with it. My dad was gone almost every weekend with the team. He didn't make it home for dinner most nights because practice would run late. Um, and I think as a mom, that would be even substantially harder when you add in, oh, but you're breastfeeding on top of that. So, how do you navigate traveling all weekend while breastfeeding your kids? I think that would be really difficult. So, yeah, I don't have any regrets. I would love to see changes happen in the collegiate coaching world that did make it, a little bit more family friendly. Um, but that's not where it's at right now. And so I was able to kind of make my own path here. And it has worked out really well. Last summer I pulled my kids out of school and I was like, we're just going to have fun this summer. We are going to spend a ton of time together. We had just moved. We're going to explore a new neighborhood. We're going to go to the pool. And I pretended like I was a stay-at-home mom. And then at 8:30, once they went to sleep, I would log in and I'd start work and I'd work till 11 or midnight or whatever it took to get what I need to get done. And,
Nice.
I could make it happen. And you just don't have that flexibility in a lot of other careers.
Right, for sure.
Is that something, you've obviously written books about, women's running and stuff like that. And is that something with your clients that would be maybe better at than others of trying to balance that or understanding how to balance that life and, performance balance and helping them get through that?
Totally. And I think that's why Get Running is attractive for the athletes that we have. Now I'm one of four coaches that we have on our coaching roster. Um, we're a female owned and staffed business. Um, and we utilize definitely a collaborative approach. Um, I have a question. I'm like, oh, my one of my athletes is doing Boston to Big Sur. Has anyone else helped coach an athlete to that? What did you experience? What did you learn? How can I better support them? So we really kind of knock ideas off each other, which
Mhm.
is really helpful. And then we also each kind of have our own niche when it comes to our specialties with our different athletes. Um, and so, I think that allows us to meet the needs of more athletes by having kind of coaches who it makes more sense for them to work with
Sure.
based off of our individual strengths. One of our coaches, she was originally a 5 hour marathoner. And, she has done a walk run program as part of her training over the years. She then, is the huge success story of running a huge PR and qualifying for Boston and all of that. And she is super helpful with our athletes who have injuries, who need like, more cross training or strength training support,
Mhm.
and more of our beginner runners. And, she's a mom, she homeschools her kids. It's very relatable
Yeah.
and that's important. And then I'm on the other spectrum, right? Like I trained professionally for 7 years. But I also have kids and I work and I, recognize that they're our athletes are not pro runners. They are people with lives and running needs to be fun and a stress reliever and an energy giver, not the opposite. Um,
Okay.
and so, you know, as a whole, our coaches take a scientific approach, but we apply it with real life. And we recognize that, these people have lives outside of being an athlete. We're not giving people double runs. We're not expecting that they're getting 9+ hours a night of sleep. We recognize these people have lives, and as soon as their run's over, life hits, and
Yep.
that's normal. And so, we support that. We want people to adjust, listen to their bodies, not just push through. Um, and so I think that you know kind of speaks for Get Running as a whole, is that we are trying to build connection and community, not just a business.
But I'm sure even as your amateur athletes appreciate that, like even the pros would appreciate that. And most people think that the pros live in a bubble and they don't have a life outside of that too, but they're managing those things too, just out of, maybe a 9 to 5 on top of that. So, although,
Yeah,
sometimes sport doesn't pay well enough and they are managing a 9 to 5. So, uh,
totally.
yeah, so that's a great kind of perspective you guys get to come from. Do you have a favorite? Like you guys have niches. Do you guys have a favorite, or you particularly have a favorite group you like to listen or work with, either distance or level or anything like that?
I would say over the years, now that I've transitioned, primarily to a marathoner myself, that's kind of been my main focus. I'll have athletes do speed segments here or there, but I really don't drop under 5K very often when I'm working with athletes. Where one of our coaches, Lauren, she came from the collegiate coaching scene and she's like very comfortable with like 800-mile steeple 5K.
Mhm.
And so, I would say for me, have really enjoyed working with marathoners. Level wise, for me, it's all about progress, right? So it's where are we today and where do we want to be and what does that journey look like? Um, And, I've had 5 athletes that have qualified for the Olympic trials. I've also had athletes that have completed their first ever marathon, and
Mhm.
their goal was just to finish. And
Yeah.
that's so exciting. And then I also really enjoy working with postpartum moms because that's kind of such my phase of life right now.
Yep. Yep.
And, you know, I had 2 kids, took 4 years off from racing,
Wow.
came back, um, got into training. Training looked different than it did before,
Yeah.
but different doesn't mean bad.
Mhm.
I ran less, but I got more out of what I was doing. And I also learned how to read my body a lot better.
Yeah.
Um, so I was able to be a lot more flexible, and I didn't have any injuries or setbacks like I used to have when I was really riding that line and pushing the limit a lot.
Yep.
Um, and I ended up running an all-time PR of 2:30 in the marathon, qualifying for my fourth Olympic trials. And I think that's just such a testament to, you know, that phase of, hey, you know, training can look different, but it doesn't mean your goals necessarily have to change.
Mhm.
And yes, you've added, you know, kids to the mix, and life looks a little different than it did before. But you can still pursue your goals. So that was like really special and profound for me, um, to kind of have that breakthrough, but also to be able to share that with, other moms who are kind of at the start of that journey, recognizing what is possible for them.
Yeah. Would you say that that last trials was more rewarding because of the not challenges, but the different circumstances in which you had to get ready for it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that was kind of one of those almost fairy tale sort of moments for me in my career. 2012, I qualified for my first Olympic trials, fresh out of college, and end up having a foot injury. So I had to skip the trials. But, you know, I was like, I have all these years ahead of me. I'll be fine, whatever. 2016, I qualified for the marathon trials through the half. Um,
Mhm.
and then 2020, I was coming off of a um, femoral neck stress fracture
Okay.
postpartum from my first. And I had only put in 6 weeks of training and qualified for the trials on the very last day. But I will tell you, that race felt like I had only put in 6 weeks of training. And it was a huge victory to check that box. But it was not very fun. It did not feel good. And so, I ran 2:44 in
Mm.
2020 at Houston to qualify for the trials that year. And then the world shut down. And then I had an IUD pregnancy. And it was like, all right, my direction has changed.
Wow.
And things fully shifted. And then I was able to get back to racing after my second. um, it always took me about a year until like postpartum, until I was like, okay, I can start training again. Like my
Okay.
body is ready. You know, I can be excited about pushing myself. Um, and so he was about 18 months when I ran 2:30 in the marathon. And I would say, while both were equally, um, impressive based off
Mhm.
of what I had accomplished in terms of the amount of training I had and everything. The 2:30 did kind of take me by surprise. The 2:44, I was like, I think I can do it. I think I can squeak in under 2:45 and get that Olympic trial standard. But then they changed it, so now I have to
Mhm.
run 2:36 for the next year. And I thought, okay, I think I can run 2:33, 2:34 is kind of where
Okay.
I suspected my fitness was. So to have that really good day did feel really, really special.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a good moment. The kids were there, and that's definitely a day I'll remember for sure.
Yeah. Was your oldest old enough to understand at that point? or is he
They
just
were
seeing you
4
run again?
yeah, they were 4-1 at that point, and I would say, I mean, I think they may not remember me racing, but they'll remember that I didn't leave them at home. I
Yeah, yeah,
think that's kind of the key, right? Is
yep.
like they weren't left behind. They got to be there, whether they remember being there or not. Yeah,
Right,
I'm
right.
not sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Awesome. Well, I mean, obviously, the purpose of these conversations is to bring resources to runners, right? So that they know like where to go find great coaches, where to go find great doctors, stuff like that. So, from a process of getting in touch with you and getting in touch with your running group, how's that best for people to do that?
yeah, totally. So we have a website, getrunningcoaching.com. Um, we also are Get Running Coaching on Instagram. And personally, I'm Neely S. Gracey on Instagram, and I am super responsive. So if anyone has any questions or wants to, inquire about coaching or just has running oriented things they wanted to discuss, just message me. I'm happy to respond. Um, we do have a coaching sale coming up April 21st through Mother's Day. We will have training plans on discount. So if anyone's interested in that, definitely reach out and let me know. And we can make sure we get you scheduled for a phone call so that we can kind of talk through what it might look like.
Awesome on that end. Perfect. Um, as far as some of your other interesting accolades, you have a world record pushing a stroller for a mile. How did that come to be?
Yeah. So, obviously, probably kind of through this conversation, you can tell like being a mom, being a coach, and being a runner are kind of three things that are very prioritized in my day to day life.
Right.
And um, when my kids were little, they stayed home with me. And so I did a lot of stroller running as a result. And so when I trained for my 2:30 marathon, I was doing about 30 miles a week with the stroller. Um, and I was running around 70 to 80 miles total. So it was one of those that it kind of popped into my head as like, it would be really cool to blend my worlds, right?
Right.
With having my kids involved with my goals in running. And it just all kind of fell together when Guava family sent me their new Rome crossover stroller. And it just happens that my son's name is Rome as well.
Yep.
And it's Rome like the city,
Yep.
and the stroller is Rome, ROAM.
Okay.
And so we kind of created this little hashtag, Rome in the Rome. And I was like, I'd love to try your stroller. I've tried the Thule, I've tried the Bob, I've tried Bumble Ride. I would be super open to trying another brand,
Mhm.
and see what I think. And I actually loved the stroller.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite features is that uh, it has airless tires, so you can't get a flat.
Okay.
And I had gotten so many flats before that. And do you know how frustrating it is if you are 5 miles away from home and your stroller has a flat and you have to clunk, clunk, clunk all the way home? It is
Right.
horrible. And so that was like, I was sold like right away. I was like, all right, if I never have to have a flat tire again, are you kidding me? Why would I ever take another stroller out?
Right.
So I started using the stroller. I was like, yeah, I actually really like this. So I reached out to them and I was like, so I applied for to run the Guinness World Record for the fastest mile with a stroller. Like, would you guys be interested in like partnering on that? And they were like, what? This is amazing. And just so it all kind of fell together. So yeah, it was a super special moment. I ran 5:24, and it since has been broken, which was the whole point of it. We
Good.
wanted to get that word out again that becoming a parent does not mean your goals end. It
Yeah.
means that they're going to look different and you might be pushing your kid in the stroller to do it, but you can still chase your goals
Yeah.
and pursue what lights a fire inside you. And so, yeah, it was really special. And uh, Rome um, has a little plaque that says, like, you know, I set the stroller world record or whatever. And like, it'll be so fun someday that he could like take that to show and tell and be like, tell the story about it. So
Right.
yeah, it was a really cool moment, and it was very me, um, and like, authentic, which
Yeah.
I strive to be.
Right. Right. Yeah. It definitely fits your whole brand
Yes.
for sure. With with number three coming now, is that going to change? I know as a triathlete, when I was racing, I didn't have to have the kids, so I didn't have that stress. But definitely as a father, even training, the more you have, and I knew once we got to three, I couldn't do 2 a days anymore, and
Mhm.
changed my training schedule. Do you foresee three being different than one and two, or just same old? You've been doing this for so long, you got it down.
Well, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that you can never really have a plan. I would say that with my first, I was still sponsored by Adidas. I was like all about like, this is just gonna be like 9 months. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna get right back to training, and the baby's just along for the ride. And that was not how it worked out for me. The first time, I had a very difficult pregnancy. I was not able to run for 6 months. When I started over, I started from scratch from the very beginning. I had never been that out of shape since I started running when I was 13. Um, and it took a long time for me to recover and rebuild. With the second one, um, it was a little different. Things clicked. I felt good. I came back together a lot easier.
Yeah.
Um, but I know not to expect that that's going to happen this time. So I think it's just going to be, hey, how's the body feel? How do I feel? But I do know psychologically it's gotten easier because I trust that when the time is right, my body will respond and I will be, able to do what I want to do. Um, but I will say that, this is our first time fully planning um, to have a baby, and so I also am under the assumption that, you know, while I was able to plan the timing of it, I have no control over the timing on the other side, and that's
Right.
okay.
Yep. Yep. That being said, obviously you can't plan the plan, but do you have any upcoming goals, or race goals, or just life goals, or
I know. I mean, I'm someone that like I can't not have a goal. I literally wrote, a whole book about dreaming big and setting goals and
right?
you know, pursuing excellence. And yeah, I mean, one of my goals, and this is kind of fun, is that I want to run sub 240 at all of the marathon majors.
Okay.
So I'm three down. I've done Boston, New York, and Berlin. Um, and the cool thing about that is that there's not a timeline. It's just when I'm ready, I sign up, I go, I do these races when I feel like I can meet that, time that I want to accomplish. So that's kind of nice. The one that obviously is like the most blaring in terms of time frame would be the next round of Olympic trials, right?
Okay.
And so we don't know what the standards are going to be. I'm assuming they're going to tighten them from what they were last time. And is that going to be within the time frame that works? I don't know, but I'd like to, if I can. So we'll just kind of play that one out and see how it goes. But I'd love to qualify for my fifth Olympic trials and just kind of
Yeah.
keep that going. Since I've been able to do it with the other two, it'd be really cool to be able to do it with the third. But again, there's a lot out of my control in regards to that one in terms of the time frame and what the standard is. Whereas the majors goal is, there for me when I'm ready.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, very cool.
And then I have contemplated
Yeah,
a double stroller record at some point, since now I feel like I kind of have to.
yeah, but this one just keeps compounding, right? Now you can do a double and you can do a triple. Do they make a
Oh
triple
God.
stroller?
Actually, one of my good friends that was on the team with me when I ran for the Hansons, she just set the triple stroller mile record. So I'll let her have it. Sounds good to me. I'll go for the double.
Like the challenge there is how old is the oldest by the time you have the youngest in the triple. Like it's a
Yes,
heavy stroller.
exactly.
Wow.
And it's this tricky balance of like, you don't want your kid to be too big because then they're pretty heavy, but you also want to have enough time to like recover and get all of your like speed and power and strength back. So you have to like find this like perfect window.
Yeah, yeah. You don't find that in a coaching textbook. You just got to figure that one out.
Exactly. Yes.
Awesome, awesome. Any other things you want to know or share? Or you've got the floor at this point. So
Let's see. I would say one of the things that I think is really cool about our coaching business, and the coaching, bring it back to the coaching conversation,
yeah,
um, is that we have uh, coaches that attend a lot of the big races. So last fall, we had a coach present at Berlin, Chicago, New York, Richmond,
yeah,
Houston, and we'll have two at Boston this year. So I think that's pretty unique and special. And
yeah.
then um, another note is that we are kind of leaning towards starting more of like an elite division of get running, and supporting like post collegiates who are pursuing, US standards, Olympic trials, those sort of things,
Mhm.
over the next couple of years. So I think that's kind of going to be something that we kick off this spring summer, that we're really excited about. And I think that there is kind of you know, you graduate college and you have goals, but what do you do? And where do you
Mhm.
go?
Yep.
And we want to help those athletes who are like, okay, like I know there's more there, and I'm
Yep.
motivated and I'm excited, but I don't know my direction. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. Um, and then we also have two summer retreats that we're doing to
Okay.
have in-person connections with some of our athletes. And so we love the flexibility of the online coaching,
Yeah.
both for our athletes who can do it in their time,
Yep.
and for us. But we also recognize that there are people that really like, enjoy, and crave that team dynamic. And so, um, yeah, we're hosting two retreats in Colorado, for people to come and visit and get to run the trails in Boulder. So we're excited about those too.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, I appreciate all your time. Yeah, we'll definitely get all this info out to all the runners and send them your way. So.
Yeah, no, thanks for reaching out. I really